Hi everyone, Kaylee Shadow's here with video 2 on communication. So super excited. I'm so glad if you watched the first video, you have already figured out the who and why and that it is important that you fix this problem. So I'm super excited. If you have not watched video 1, then I recommend you go back and watch it because today we're going to talk about some basic steps on fixing the problem and you might be a little lost if you don't go watch it. So if you haven't already gotten the communication worksheet, please go and get it. It's on my website, KayleeShadows.com. You can download it, print it out, whatever you want to do. But it really helps because you can put down who it is and follow the steps kind of thing. And just, it's kind of a nice little guide to go back to when you're figuring things out. So, like I said, super excited that you're here. And this is video 2. We will go on later this week with video 3 where I will talk kind of more about the actual fixing it, like more of the steps. So today we're kind of talking more along the idea of breaking the cycle of the communication problem. So we're going to talk about 5 steps today of breaking this cycle. And but before we do that, I want to kind of talk a little bit about why we struggle with the communication thing. And the number one reason why people will always struggle on communicating with people is fear. The really nasty F word, fear. And so it's different types of fear. It's not always, a lot of times people hear fear and they think, well, I'm not afraid of anything or whatever. And that's not what this is about. It's just different types, It could be you're afraid of looking dumb, like that somebody will think you're stupid as you're talking to them, and so that you don't want to come off that way, so you just don't say anything at all. It could be the fear that you're upsetting somebody, that whatever you have to say to them, they might not like, and it could make them mad, and they could get upset, and then a big fight starts, and nobody wants that. So you just don't say anything. It could be that you're afraid you're going to be judged. Nobody likes to be judged. And personally, I don't think that people have the right to judge anybody because we've all done things. We all have made mistakes in life. And you grow and you learn. And having somebody judge you, it just kind of puts you down. And I don't think that's right. However, nobody wants that to happen either. And there are people who will judge you. And so a lot of times when you know that somebody is going to come back at you and be like, oh my gosh, you just don't say anything. Another fear is basically negative feedback. It kind of comes from the judgment thing. It might not necessarily be a judgmental thing. It could be that, you go to somebody and you say, hey, I want to be the next best-selling author, or I want to be a model or a movie star or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. And you're afraid that person's going to be like, what? That's stupid. You can't be a model or a movie star. What do you know about this? And, oh, you can't be an author. And, nobody wants that negative feedback, especially when they're all hyped up on something exciting they're going to do. And a lot of times people will do that. So that could be another type of fear, is that you just don't want that negative feedback, And last but not least, it's that fear of putting yourself out there. A lot of times people don't want to put themselves out there because they're afraid that people won't take them seriously or they won't understand. And we all have our own little personalities and our own special things about us that make us who we are. But sometimes it doesn't necessarily come off the way, that people think it should. Like, for instance, my husband, okay? Amazing guy. Love this man to death. And total badass, right? But he has a little dorky side to him, and which is super cute also. But it's really funny when he first meets people because he doesn't want that, I'm really into all these comics and things like that to come out where people will be like, oh my gosh, So he just kind of keeps that to himself, and he just comes across mostly as that like badass biker guy, and who, plays in a heavy metal band, and people don't always see that. It takes him a while to get comfortable with somebody before he finally kind of lets out that other side of him. And I still, to this day, I have not met anybody who has seen that other side of him and liked him any less, because he is amazing. And so, but it is a perfect example of how sometimes we do kind of hold our true self back from people because we're not sure how they're going to react. And so we don't want to come off the wrong way, so we just kind of keep it to ourselves. So, as you can see, there are many different types of fear that can, stop us from communicating with people. So, towards the end of this video, I'm going to go into a little bit more on the business relationship, like more of a professional relationship, just because it does fall a little bit differently than a personal relationship, So, we're going to go into the 5 steps. First step is always to go and tell this person that you're struggling with that you are struggling to communicate with them. there's a very good possibility that they are unaware of this. If it's a romantic relationship, then they probably know that you're struggling or that they're struggling, and who knows, they're probably even trying to figure out themselves like how they're going to fix this problem. And so they probably won't be so surprised. If you go to your husband, your wife, whatever, and you say, hey, I'm really having a hard time talking to you lately, and I feel like I'm holding myself back, they're probably going to say, I feel the exact same way, or I've noticed, or something like that. However, when it comes to a different type of relationship, such as friends, parents, cousins, business, whatever it is, there's a very good chance that when you say to them, I'm really struggling to talk to you and I'm not sure how to communicate with you, that they're probably going to say, what? Why? Why are you having a hard time talking to me? I don't understand, And that's where the step number 2 comes in, is then you get to explain to them why you're having a hard time communicating with them. And this can be really hard, because if you're going to them and let's say you stopped communicating with them, or even maybe you never started really communicating with them openly because of something that they're doing, that can be really hard, because you really need to be gentle on this. You cannot go up to somebody and be like, I'm really having a hard time communicating with you. And they go, really? Why? And you go, well, because you suck. You're always putting me down. You're a jackass. You yell at me. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is. That's not going to go over well. They're going to get defensive. You're going to have a fight. And at the end of the time, you're going to think, man, Kaylee, you gave me some really crappy advice. I didn't give you crappy advice. You just didn't listen very well. So please listen. If you're going to go to somebody and tell them that the problem is something they are doing, please be gentle with it and find a more positive way of saying that. Instead of shouting at them, you're a jackass who yells at me all the time, maybe tell them, I struggle talking to you because I feel like you might not like what I have to say. I feel like you're going to be upset if I tell you what I'm really thinking, kind of thing. And I don't want to upset you. So I figure it's easier not to say anything than to say something. Be gentle about it, because then they're not going to be defensive. They're going to hear you and they're going to go, really? You're afraid to talk to me because you think I'm going to get upset with you? A perfect example is my best friend and I. We've gone a couple times in our friendship. Now, granted, we've been friends for over 20 years. And I think probably twice now in our friendship where we really didn't talk to each other. Probably about 8 months, was probably the longest we could ever go. But I remember one very specifically is that, like I said, best friends for over 20 years and stuff. Do everything together. See each other all the time. Hang out. Involved in each other's everyday life. I was there when she had her son. She was there when I had my twins. Very, very connected to each other we are. And she had started seeing this new guy, and she just instantly fell, like in love with him, and she just wanted to be with him 24/7. Very normal in a relationship. And I was married to my first husband at the time, and we didn't really do anything together. We weren't connected like that. And so I was really used to him not wanting to do stuff with me and being able to go to my best friend and be like, well, hey, do you want to go do this? And well, hey, let's do that or whatever. And she would just kind of take that place. Well, when she started seeing this guy, he was like, I want to do stuff with you, and I don't know why this woman's tagging along all the time, kind of thing, And she felt the same way. Like, I kind of really became that third wheel. And she didn't know how to, like, communicate with me because she was afraid that I was going to get mad, too, that I was going to be upset and cry. And she just felt like, well, I don't know how to do this, so I'm just not going to talk to her. And she didn't. She just literally stopped talking to me, started ignoring my phone calls. She didn't want to hang out with me anymore or anything. And the more that went on, the harder it was for me because I felt like I was losing my best friend and that she didn't even like me anymore. And what most of us will do is we will take something that's small and we will make it this huge thing, and we'll just spiral and spiral out of control until it's huge. And that's exactly what happened. If she had come to me and said, hey, you know what, I just met him and we're really enjoying some time, but I'd really like some time alone with him, and I don't want to hurt your feelings because I love you, but I just want to be able to spend some time with him, I would have understood that. Granted, I might have not liked it so much, but I would have understood, and I would have not been upset because I would have realized this is why this is happening. She's in love. She wants to be with this guy. It makes sense, And we could have figured out a way to be like, okay, well, you know what, you're hanging out with him tomorrow all day and stuff. Well, the next day he's at work. Why don't we go to the movies? Or why don't we do this or something? And so then that way I would have still been included, but not intruded on their time, kind of thing. However, that's not what happened. She was afraid, and so she ended up just not talking to me and ignoring me until I got to the point where I finally said, this is not the kind of friendship I deserve. We've been friends for years, and I love you, and I've never done anything to deserve this. I'm out. And so I literally had to like pull myself away from that, and I think we went like 8 months without talking. And now, years later, I look at this and go, man, it was 8 months that we didn't talk for over something stupid just because we didn't communicate properly. You know, luckily, you know, we made up and we love each other, everything's great. So, you know, it will work out. However, you don't want to waste that time. Life is short. So you need to learn how to communicate with people, and you need to learn how to fix this relationship. So now you know, step number 1 is you need to tell the person that, hey, I'm struggling talking to you, and I would like to, you know, to work on the communication so our relationship can move forward. Step 2 is explaining to them why you have this fear. It's pretty easy if you realize the fear is yourself. If it's that thing, like I said, where you're afraid to just kind of let yourself be yourself and you're afraid that they might not like it necessarily, that's pretty easy, because when they say, why are you having a hard time talking to me, you can say, I'm afraid that if you get to know the real me, you won't like me. And so I hold part of myself back for that, you know. And more than likely, they're going to be like, that's ridiculous. I love you. I love everything about you, whatever, you know. And it's going to be just fine. So, step number 3, however, is explaining to them also why is it important to fix this. Because in a like a romantic relationship is pretty easy, you know. If you're going to your husband and you're like, I'm having a hard time talking to you because blah blah, you know, and they're gonna pretty much understand why you're wanting to fix this. You're wanting to fix it because you don't want your marriage to fail. You want to move forward. You want to keep going. You want your marriage to be stronger. That's pretty understandable. You know, you might not have to necessarily say that. However, it might not hurt either to say, I'm afraid that if we don't start communicating more openly with each other, that we're not going to make it. That eventually we're going to find other people to that we can communicate with, and we're going to fall apart. You know, and sometimes it sucks to say that, but sometimes that eye-opener really helps both of you to realize, wow, look at the road we're headed down. We don't want that. You know, we want to fix this. Let's fix this, you know. If it's, you know, somebody else, if it's a friend or a parent or something like that, obviously it's a little bit different because you're not talking about, you know, ending a relationship necessarily, you know, but it's that thing of, you know, if it's your best friend and you all of a sudden realize that you're not communicating the way you used to, because who knows, maybe you had a falling out, or maybe like my friend there, she, you know, she was just afraid to tell me that, you know, she had some other stuff she needed to do, you know, whatever it is, kind of thing. You know, you need to basically tell them, this is why I want to fix this. You know, you mean the world to me. I treasure our friendship. It means so much that I don't want to ever lose that. And I'm afraid that if we don't start talking about things a little bit better, that eventually we're just going to stop hanging out altogether. And that makes me sad. You know, or whatever the reason is and stuff. You need to be able to tell them, this is why I want to fix this. This is why this is important to fix this. So, step number 4 is you need to ask them if they'll help you with this. Because, honestly, communication is not a one-way street. You both have to be communicating. And sometimes it will be that thing. You'll find in a relationship or a friendship or something that there is one person that just constantly talking all the time and everything, and the other person just kind of shrugs, you know, and it's like, yeah, okay. And it's very one-sided. That's when, you know, even then you kind of need their help, because if you're the one who's holding yourself back and they're the one communicating and stuff like that, they probably haven't caught on that there's a problem with the communicating, and they need to kind of be able to help you. So, you know, you've gone to them, you've said, hey, I'm having a problem. This is why I'm having this problem. I want to fix this problem because if I don't, this is what's going to happen. Now I need your help. I need you to help me do this, because I know that I can do all of these steps, and for a week or so things are going to be great and we'll be communicating, but then I'm going to start to slow back into what I was doing before and we'll be right back where we are. And so if you could help me with that, that would be so great, because then I know I can move forward, and that's what I want. Step number 5 is you have to really make sure that you actually communicate. So okay, let me explain step 5 a little bit more. So make a date to communicate. See what I did there? Okay, so it sounds really kind of cheesy, I'm sure, when you're thinking back about this, but when you're thinking you really want to fix this, is that so you've gone to the person, you're having the talk, you're letting them know this is something I want to work on. Then you need to make a plan for it. You need to actually be like, so tomorrow night, what do you say? We shut off our phones, shut off the TV, we just sit and we talk and we have a good time. A romantic relationship, make it like a date night and stuff. Get rid of all your phones, everything, electronics and stuff. Enjoy that. Go for a drive, whatever. Be alone together and just talk. You don't have to necessarily talk about anything specific. Just make sure that you're talking. That'll really help open that door for communicating, you know, because eventually you want to be able to get into the more serious stuff of communicating. But if you're really struggling on that, let's just get started. Let's just start breaking the cycle of not talking at all and start talking about things that are just anything and stuff. Oh yeah, you know, the kids' school play today, blah blah blah, whatever it is, you know. It's the same thing. If it's a friend, go out for dinner and stuff, get together and stuff, have a girls' night, you know, whatever you're doing, and talk, you know, and stuff. Just enjoy each other and stuff. Turn off. Seriously, the electronics these days are just overwhelmingly taking over everybody's lives, and nobody's talking to anybody anymore. This is why communication is such a struggle. Why should I talk to you when I can play my game, or I can look on Facebook, or I can do whatever I want? Social media is everywhere. I can talk there. Why should I actually speak to you and stuff? Well, if you value your relationships, that's why you should speak to them. That is very important. So those are the 5 steps. I did say I wanted to mention a little bit more about like the professional relationship, because they are a little bit different. You know, if you're not going to go to your boss and be like, I'm really struggling talking to you, and it's because I'm afraid of you. They're going to be like, get out of my office. What are you doing? You know, come on. And so with that, you have to be a lot more professional. And so you're not going to go to your boss and say, you know, with weeping, like, you know, it's the end of the world or whatever and stuff. Because a lot of times, I mentioned in my first video, when it comes to that professional relationship, it's more of the fact that you want your boss to be aware of the stuff that you're doing so you can move ahead in the company. That's the idea of it, you know. So if you're struggling with telling your boss, hey, you remember that promotion you promised me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 6 months ago, whatever, and stuff. Well, I did all the things that you told me I needed to do to get this promotion, to get this raise, but yet I still haven't gotten that. I kept up my end of the deal, you haven't kept up yours. That's really hard, because a lot of times people are afraid they're going to get fired if they do that. So that's the same thing. You need to be able to start breaking that, is you need to go in and you need to sit down and stuff and to think your boss is a person just like you. And, you know, set up a meeting with them and say, hey, I'd like to talk to you. I've noticed that I have a few things that I need to say to you, but I kind of struggle because you're my boss and I don't want to cross the line here. But I do think that I have a lot to offer here. I have a lot to tell you, you know. And they'll be open to you at that point. They'll kind of start, like, without you actually saying, I feel like I can't talk to you, you know, they're hearing that you're saying, I'm having a hard time communicating with you, and this is why. You know, and it's that thing when, you know, you're kind of telling them, like, hey, I want to fix this, because if I don't, I'm going to be working for one of your competitors, buddy, and you don't want that because I'm awesome, you know. So that's the same thing. That's basically why you're saying this is important that we fix this right now, because this is what's going to happen if we don't. It all follows the same steps, just in a little bit more of a professional manner sort of thing, you know. And the only difference with the whole professional relationship is at the end of it, you're not going to make a date to communicate kind of thing, because that's ridiculous. However, if you haven't already set that meeting with the boss to be able to have this talk, that's what you need to do. That needs to be your step number 5, is to go to the boss, be like, I need to have a talk with you. I need to, you know, let you know some things that are going on here and all this. And at the end of that, you need to set that meeting. Depending on where you work and stuff, sometimes you can't necessarily get into the boss and have that conversation and all at one time. So if you can't, you need to set that, and then set that time. Get that meeting set so you can tell them, hey, I rock, and you know I rock. Give me my money. Or whatever you need to say to them, of course. So thank you so much for tuning in. This is, like I said, video 2. I will be doing video 3 later on this week, and we are really going to go into a little bit more of actually, like, steps to fixing this, now you've kind of gotten into like, let's breaking the cycle, starting to communicate more, and that's awesome. So work on some of this. You know, like I said, use the worksheet. It helps, kind of helps you remind you of some stuff. And come back at the end of the week and you will see that we have, you know, some more tips on actually fixing this. So thank you so much. Check out my website, KayleeShadows.com, and have a great day.